This is Andy Purewal for Boxing Social in association with Betfred, and I'm delighted to be joined by Tristan Kalkreuth over Zoom. Tristan, first and foremost, how are you doing?
Everything's going awesome. Can't complain.
It's good to hear, man. Now, obviously, you're over there in the States. I'm here in England. What's life like in the States in lockdown at the minute?
Everything over here, everything's kind of clearing up. I went to the mall about a couple of days ago. It seemed like it was back. It seemed like it was back to normal. Obviously, it's still restrictions. Still a couple stores closed. People still wearing masks, but I can see us slowly moving back to our normal lifestyles.
I did an interview with another fighter who's based in America a few days ago, and he said to me that in each state there's different laws and like kind of procedures that have been put in place. What's it like where you are?
I know in California and Miami, they're still going through some strict policies. Still they're probably still in quarantine. But here in Texas, everything's clearing up, and I was told that Texas is the main one that's going to really get boxing back on its feet. They're looking to have a fight here in maybe late June here at the Bomb Factory, and I assume that might be one of the first fights, heading towards back to quarantine. So it's gonna be awesome, and probably gonna be promoted by Goldenboy.
Okay, it's good to hear. Obviously, well, as this is your first time on the channel, I want to kind of do a reflection over your, I say, career so far. I know you've only had 5 fights, but obviously you've got quite an established amateur background as well, and we briefly touched on your difference in weight between amateur to professional, which we'll touch on as well. But just for everybody who is viewing this interview, just talk to me and take me through your amateur pedigree.
Okay, sure thing. I was 92-9 as an amateur. I competed in the Worlds in 2017. I'm a 7-time national champion and 3-time USA national champion.
Obviously, a lot of accomplishments there. How easy or difficult was it to kind of make sure that you have to focus on your boxing career? Because when people can begin to taste success, it would be very easy to kind of start to get led down the wrong paths and what have you. How easy or difficult did you find it when you started to have more success and hype build around your name?
My thing and the thing that I was always raised with was discipline, and discipline takes fighters a long way. I said this many times before, discipline takes fighters a long way. It helps them mature quicker in the pro games, amateurs, and that's one thing. And with life and everything, my thing is always, take two steps forward and one step back, and that helps me reset. And it's hard not to get, big headed. It's hard not to get overconfident and things like that. But with that saying, it always reminds me to take 2 steps forward and one step back. So I have to reset myself, and there's nothing you can never go wrong with, staying humble.
What was it about boxing that you liked in particular that made you think, you know what, I want to try and see what I can do with this? Because I saw you when you was growing up, you liked to play basketball, you liked a bit of soccer. Why boxing? What made you stick to boxing?
In this case, I think boxing really chose me because I was a real athletic kid. I did soccer, I did football, and I did basketball. And just one day I was just like, I want to go to the boxing gym. I went to the boxing gym. The coach was really impressed with, my length and how tall I was. And I went from there and I stayed dedicated. Been boxing for about 10 years now. And signed with Golden Boy.
I mean, what type of not interactions, but what type of involvement do you have with other sports still? Do you still play any basketball or soccer, as you've mentioned?
I do. I play, on the free time because, I have a lot of free time besides, working out, because I consider boxing as a job. And during that free time, I either go paintballing, do airsoft, I either go play basketball, or do something productive like, working on my GED and learning Spanish.
Now, see, in your last answer as well, sorry, you said you're doing your GD and you're learning Spanish as well. Talk to me about that. I was about to skip over that, but talk to me about that. How are you finding juggling that?
Oh no, a little bit. I'm a real active person, so I like to get out and do things like that. But you really just have to motivate yourself to sit down and do your work. And getting the GED is really not a long course. is a short course. So here pretty soon I'll be done.
Well, that obviously goes swimmingly for you. But as I was going to mention there, you mentioned signing with Goldenboy, obviously run by Oscar De La Hoya. What was that like, the first interaction with Oscar, especially at such a young age?
It was awesome. I always seen Oscar always been the man since I was an amateur and things like that. And I knew that Golden Boy, they're one of the me personally one of the best promotions that you could possibly sign to, and just getting the top of the top of the promotion, the best one out of there is is really, it was really exciting. It was kind of almost unexpected because I was real young. I was signed at 17, and I just got out of amateurs. And a lot of people, they don't get signed until their late 20s or early 20s, 22, 20s. And for me to be signed at 17 must have been real special.
I mean, with your decorated amateur background that we touched on earlier on in this interview, I'm sure you wasn't short on offers. You might have had a fair few people from across America, maybe even further afield around the world, trying to speak to you, trying to become your promoters or managers. How easy or difficult a decision was it to go with Golden Boy and Oscar De La Hoya?
I had it was a little complicated. I had different offers from many other promotions. I had offer from Main Event and potentially one from PBC and one from Matchroom. And at the end of the day, it was between Golden Boy and Matchroom. And we're just seeing who could really, we exchanged contracts, see who could really come with the best offer, and talked with my team, talked with my manager, talked with Ronnie Shields, and they were all feeling Golden Boy. So we just went with Golden Boy, and it's working out for the best.
Now, obviously, us as Brits, we see a lot of Eddie Hearn, obviously a British promoter. You just mentioned Matchroom there. What was the dialogue like between yourself and Matchroom and Eddie? Because we've seen a lot of American youngsters at the same age of you who have also had decorated amateur backgrounds sign with Eddie over the past few years. Most recently, Mark Castro, I believe, was the last biggest name that he signed, who had a great amateur background himself.
Yeah,
What was your interaction like with Eddie?
uh, you know, uh, I was showed to Matchroom once before, and at that time they weren't really interested in me. And this was before, like a while back before uh, my last bout, my last national tournament. So then we were still searching. We've been searching, for a while, even before my amateur tournament. We were searching. So we were showed the Matchroom. They weren't interested, and then eventually my last couple fights. Uh, we were introduced to him again, and that time they sent it straight to Eddie Hearn, and Eddie Hearn was like, "Wow, how come we don't have this kid signed?" So they sent me the contract the like the same day, like I believe it was at night. It was like this, it was like that, and we already had a contract, and Eddie Hearn and the team over there, they're real good people, and I was just thinking that. If I sign with Golden Boy, we're basically getting the same type of treatment. I mean, because the zone and Golden Boy, they have a huge deal, things like that. So at the end of the day, I just overall thought Golden Boy was just a better option.
Obviously, still very young and younger when you made that decision to turn pro. What made you think now was the time to turn professional? As I said, we've seen a lot of young Americans signing with Eddie Hearn as well as other promoters recently. Why so young? Why do you think there's started to be a little bit of a trend of fighters across the world turning professional?
I believe it was because the Olympics, especially towards me, the 2020 Olympics, I was like a bit too early to qualify or to be able to compete in the Olympic Games. So I was just like, the next one was, I believe, was 2024 or 2022, and I was like, I really don't want to wait that long, and I already have 103 fights, 101 fights with a ton of experience. So I'm just like, let's try pushing me towards the pro games. Uh, by all the tools I had from learning from my amateur background and all the sparring sessions I had, I truly believed I was ready.
Obviously, final thing on, well, it's kind of a transition from amateur to professional. We touched on it off the interview. You boxed at welterweight as an amateur, and you now find yourself boxing at light heavyweight as a professional. Talk to me about that.
You know, I believe it was. I really not explaining. It's just I just had a growth spurt, and I was I was constantly like it was one point where I was good. I was at 152, and this is where I knew that I was kind of pushing my bounds a little bit. Was when I was on a USA team and I was walking around maybe 168 and trying to get down to 152. And if I couldn't make 152, I couldn't be on the team. I couldn't be able to fight on the team. So after that camp was over, I just shot up to 165. I had like one fight at 165, just one, and then I fought four times or three at 178, and then I just went to the pros. And even still today, I'm still growing. And I might grow maybe an inch or so, and I'm still putting on weight. So like I said before, everybody's saying about me becoming a heavyweight. I can see me becoming a heavyweight. You know, right now it's just we're not really trying to push it. We're trying to make the right choices and which way I should fight. Right now I'm cruiserweight, and I think I'll be cruiserweight for a minute.
Obviously, we'll come on to the coming years ahead of you and what your plans are, but just to kind of stick around the time we find ourselves in at the minute, talk to me about the transition from amateur to professional style. How did you find it?
You know, I believe I always had a pro style, even though, amateurs, they had clickers. So it was points, you have to throw a bunch of punches, but I always had a defensive, accurate type of pro style. So when I kind of transitioned to my pro debut, it's really natural, thanks to Roddy Shields being one of my head trainers. He helped me sharpen my tools. So when my pro debut came around, everything was on point.
What was that like when you made your professional debut? How different did you find it in comparison to when you was boxing as an amateur?
It's I know the punches. I see my punches are punches in general. They do hurt a lot more than with headgear on. So that's what we've been working on. The camp before my pro debut is being more defensive. When I throw my left hook, keep my right hand tucked right here. Because in the amateurs, you might get hit with that shot. It might not really affect you, but in the pros, with 10-ounce gloves, you're definitely going to feel something. So that's one thing we made sure. And I had it planned down inside my head how my pro debut was going to go. But when it actually, when I went through the whole thing and did the backflip and thing like that, it's just it was crazy. I never forget that night.
See, you're talking now about little things that you're having to find yourself doing in the ring as a professional. How easy have you found it then, trying to adapt now? Now you're 5 fights into your career. What's been the biggest learning curve for you?
The learning curve. Just to say, every fight is experience. Obviously my first 2 fights were by knockout. My third fight, it was a 4-round decision, and that's the fight I really learned a lot. I got hit with one time with a big shot. I took it well, so I kind of figured out how it feels, to get hit with pro boxing gloves, and I took it well. And but that's not my thing. Obviously the thing is to move my head. But since that fight, my defensive got better. Because I fought a veteran. I fought a veteran that day, and ever since then I've been going up and up and up, and that's just the goal. Because there's levels in boxing. You just have to take a fight by fight.
We've spoken about the little things that you're learning and how every fight is bringing new experience. But how would you describe your style to everybody? Because I've read up on the comparisons to Muhammad Ali, one of the greatest boxers of all time. Talk to me about your style and what those comparisons are like.
And well, I believe from Muhammad Ali, the point, I think it really came from my physical appearance. You know, my length, my height. I believe it came from there. You know, I do honestly believe I kind of fight different from Muhammad Ali. Uh, I say that I'm probably a slick, quick fighter, or really just I read articles, that people wrote about me sometimes. Somebody said boxer, puncher. Uh, and me personally, I like to go get it. I like to work behind my jab and be able to land my power shots. And I could box. I could be slick and quick as well. Things like that. And I really haven't shown my full arsenal. And me to be honest, I really can't wait to get back in the ring. It's just, to be honest, this quarantine is really depressing. You can't go to gyms, you can't spar, things like that. So I'm just ready to get back going. And yeah, I just have I have a lot of weapons in my arsenal.
We'll come on to obviously the gyms and the sparring and your career in the following question to this one. But final thing on Ali, what's it like for you yourself when you do see comparisons to one of the greatest boxers of all time, one of the greatest sportsmen of all time?
Oh, it's an honor. When Eric Gomez and Oscar said that I remind them of Muhammad Ali, those are real impactful words, and it really impacted me. It really motivated me that everybody, expects a lot of me. Obviously, being myself, I expect a lot out of myself as well. And I also believe in myself. I have full confidence. And it's really impactful words, to be compared to a legend like Muhammad Ali, one of the greatest. And obviously, when you speak of boxing, that's who you're speaking of. It's Muhammad Ali. So that's one of the best things that somebody could say.
Now, coming on to your career now, or going into your career a bit more, obviously 5-0, I believe over space of probably 5 or 6 months, you had your period of fights up until quarantine and lockdown. How frustrating a period are you finding it now that you've built up such a good run of momentum? You won 4 of your fights by knockout, and now it's all kind of been ground to a halt by something that's out of your control.
Yeah, it's really it's really shocking. I had to talk with one of the members from Goldenboy, and they were basically saying that they were looking to build me as how they did the old school legendary fighters, like Oscar De La Hoya, Pernell Whitaker, those type of fighters. How when their first 2 years they had them fighting. And my goal was to get about 10 fights this year, or to have 10 fights this year. And right now I have 5, and by this time I would have had about 7 fights. But obviously due to the outbreak, it kind of slowed things back.
So obviously at this stage of your career, very early on, the same with not just you, but with most fighters when they just turn over, they go through this period of fighting either journeyman or fighters with a similar record to what they'd have themselves, 5-0, 6-0, what have you. Mm-hmm. When you reflect on your professional career so far, how do you think you'd operate at a higher level? Do you feel that you can operate at a better level than what you've been at currently, or are you happy to continue to push yourself at this level?
Definitely, I'm very confident in myself. Right now, I've been fighting 4-round fights. My next fight is planned to be 6, and I talked about to my coach, just me thinking out loud, about me, having a title shot at an early age, maybe 20s or late 19. And, that on that part, I just leave that up to my team. I feel confident about it. But, it's obviously, I have a team behind me, and my decision isn't the only decision that matters. That's why we have, a manager, a head trainer. That's why we have those people to, help us make a decision as a team. But I do believe that that once those levels pick up and those rounds pick up, I'll be 100% ready, 100% focused.
Obviously, Tristan, you last fought in March, I believe. I assume you would have been you'd have been on one of the last cards before quarantine and lockdown. When you look back to that, do you feel like you're kind of lucky in the sense that you was able to get out once more before we find ourselves in the position we are in?
Oh, definitely. Thanks to Goldenboy, even though it wasn't on a Goldenboy card, they were still able to give me a purse and things like that. So I'm very grateful for Goldenboy, and a huge shout out to them. But definitely, a funny fact that after that fight, the week after that fight, we were looking to fight, another fight, which was going to be 6 rounds, and it was good to go. And maybe a day or two later, it was canceled. It was canceled due to coronavirus. So I look back and I had about 4 fights within 3-4 months, and I'm kind of happy that I was on that pace.
What's your knowledge of when shows might return?
Okay, you know, some people are saying I heard some promotions are saying like Top Rank or something are saying late May or late May. No, I think it was after. I think it was June. But I know that they told me, the Golden Boy team told me that uh, late June it might be the next time that I'll be fighting, and it'll be here in the Bomb Factory. And I know it's gonna be a little bit different because it's not really gonna be a crowd, and that's really, to me personally, that's the main thing where what gets my adrenaline up once I do my ring walk is the crowd and the fans and things like that. So it's gonna be different, but I know that a lot of promotions, they're trying to start boxing here early, and I believe that Texas is going to be the main one to really get boxing back on his feet here pretty soon.
Do you think boxing with no fans will mean you have to produce your best no matter what? Because it would be easy to become a little complacent, not having the fans being able to cheer you on and supporting you.
Oh, definitely, it is going to be a different experience. It is going to be a different experience, because you just got, if you really think about it, like even the details, when you hit somebody, it's not going to be oohs and ahs, things like that. And even let's say if somebody knocks the dude out or something, it's going to be probably complete quiet, complete silence there. So it's going to be kind of interesting thing there. But me personally, I just have to put in my mind that even though there's not a huge fan base in the arena, that there's going to be over 100,000 of people, thousands of people watching on the Zone. The Zone's a big network, so there's gonna be many people watching. I have to install that into my brain if I do fight with almost an empty crowd.
Obviously, Tristan, we're coming towards kind of the end of the questions for you yourself on your career before I ask you about a few other things in the boxing world. But final thing on you yourself, how do you see the coming years of your career progressing? What kind of ambitions do you have?
Um, you know, I'm looking towards just progressing. That's just my mindset is just moving forward. And obviously due to this effect, it kind of slowed everything back a little bit. But I'm just looking to take one day at a time, and just keep working. Obviously not getting ready, but staying ready, staying in shape, keeping my hands fast. So once there's a fight, I'll be ready to go like this. And time will tell. Time will tell in the near future.
Now, obviously, as I mentioned, just to kind of move away from yourself, how much boxing do you watch away from anything that you're involved in?
I watch a lot of boxing. I have a coach that sends me boxing videos. Of the old school fighters. And obviously my pops, he sends me videos. Like, obviously the main thing is defense and working behind the jab. Like I saw uh, this fighter, which was the original founder of the Philly Shell, and which I didn't know was Georgie Benning. I believe that's his name, Georgie Benning or George Benning. He was the founder of the Philly Shell, and I always thought it was Roger Mayweather. I thought he was the founder of the Philly Shell, but it was actually Georgie Benning. And the reason they call it Philly Shell was because Georgie Benning was from Philly, and I didn't know that. And but just knowing that, and is just knowing that, it's kind of crazy. I always thought it was from Roger Mayweather, which is kind of tricky, you know. And but also I always watch like videos of like the shoulder roast. People don't know much about the shoulder roast. Everybody thinks that when you block a punch, it's just right here. But really, what you want to do to really absorb that punch is roll your shoulders, because sometimes it can hit those small parts like right here in the back of the head, things like that. But if you just roll your shoulder a little bit, you could absorb it and you can come back with your punches. So it's just a lot of things I've been watching on YouTube, related to boxing, and it's actually productive during this time, because I'm also gaining knowledge, about the ring and about where to place my punches and how to roll my shoulders. So it's just basically studying. If you really think about it, it's studying.
Obviously, Tristan, earlier on you mentioned you can see yourself moving up to heavyweight. There's a lot of talk about the heavyweight division at the minute, and a lot of people talking about a potential undisputed heavyweight title fight between Tyson Fury and Anthony Joshua, provided they both beat Tyson beats Deontay in their rematch once again, and then if AJ beats Purewal, that is. If Joshua and Fury met in an undisputed title fight, how do you think the fight would play out?
Always heard of Anthony Joshua. So the first thing, I'm always I'm probably gonna be behind Anthony Joshua, but Tyson, he is a real skillful heavyweight. He has speed, and the thing about Tyson is he could box. He could really flick that jab out there, and Tyson will frustrate you. But always knew of Anthony Joshua. Coming up into the pro games, always knew of Anthony Joshua, and I always been a big fan of Anthony Joshua. So I don't know how the fight would play out, but I always look for the first round. How the first round goes is normally how the fight's gonna play out. So it's gonna be an awesome fight. Is that the next fight for
Tyson? It's been spoken about. Obviously, Tyson has a third fight with Deontay Wilder lined up, and Anthony Joshua is supposed to face Kubrat Pulev, but with everything that's going on, we're unsure as to whether or not a deal can be struck.
Okay. Yeah, that's some big fights. That's some really big fights. Can't wait to watch them.
Well, Tristan, we will obviously leave that there now. It's been a pleasure to speak to you for the first time. Before I do let you leave to enjoy the rest of your day, what would you like to say to everyone who tunes in to watch our interview?
This interview's from the UK, if I'm not mistaken, right?
Yep.
Yeah, I have a huge fan base in the UK. So I thank y'all for y'all support. Thank y'all for y'all's motivation, and I'm just gonna keep grinding, keep staying ready, and I hope everybody stays positive during this tough time. I know it's tougher over there in the UK than it is over here in Texas, but I know all this will come to a cease. Everybody will continue their normal life. So I say that everybody just stay positive.
Tristan, that's brilliantly put, and we will leave that there now. I hope you enjoy the rest of your day and stay safe during these tough times. Thank you for speaking to Boxing Social.
Thank you.